Everyone, we're inside now. Nature journaling is something that I love to do, and scientists around the world have been doing for hundreds of years. This is how information is recorded, observations, questions that scientists come up with, they'll put into their nature journals and will use that in their research. So by nature journaling, you truly are scientists. Now here's what you need. You all need a nature journal, which I know you all have, and you need a pencil for what we're doing today. Nature journaling is not something that has to be really complicated. It can be very simple. Nature journaling is usually done outdoors. Today we're going to do a little outside and we're going to do some inside as well. As the weather changes and it gets colder outside, then we may have to change how we do things a little bit. Whenever you're nature journaling, there are 3 things to consider. And again, this is what scientists always consider. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. These phrases. The first one is, I notice. So you can actually write this on the page where you are journaling. And here you'll jot down some of your observations. The second thing to keep in mind is the phrase, I wonder. And this is where you jot down your questions. Anything that comes to your mind. There's no such thing as a wrong question, and it doesn't matter that you don't know the answer. That's the point. You're asking questions to do more investigation. And lastly, the third phrase to keep in mind is, this reminds me of. And this phrase really is saying that you are making connections. What do you notice that is familiar to you, or that you have seen before, or what is it reminding you of? So these are the 3 phrases to keep in mind anytime we are nature journaling. Today, we're going to do an activity where we are comparing 2 different kinds of leaves. So this is something I would like you to go out and do. Find 2 leaves and choose 2 for any reason you wish. You might find that you like their shape, or perhaps you like their color. It's completely up to you. Once you have found your 2 leaves, then you'll go back inside to do your comparison. Once you have chosen your leaves, then you're going to come to your nature journal, and we're going to set it up so that you are able to make your observations and compare the 2. I like to, when I am comparing, draw a line down the center of my page. And you can write at the top if you wish. You can write object 1 or object 2 if you wish, whatever you like. And then you're going to draw your leaves on each side. So 1 leaf here. Now, when you do your drawings, you're making your observations. It doesn't have to be a pretty drawing. You're drawing what you see. And don't worry if it's not perfect. That's not what this is about. So you're going to draw the leaves on both sides. Now, of course, it'll be more detailed than what I've drawn here. And once you've drawn those, then you are going to start making your observations. So remember those phrases. I notice, I wonder, this reminds me of. So you'll start here, and you can use, sometimes you can use different things, like you can use I's, and this is where you'll make your I notice statements. And you can do that on both sides. So jot down what you see. You're noticing things that are different and things that are similar in the 2 leaves. Write down your questions. Anything, remember, that comes to mind, jot them down. And this reminds me of. So if you even just put an R, whatever you like, it's up to you. This is your nature journal, so nobody is going to tell you how to do it and how to set it up. It's whatever makes sense to you. I'd like to show you what I did with my comparison study. Remember, when you are recording in your journal, you're using words, pictures, and numbers to record your observations. So there's the two leaves that I chose, as I showed you. Here's my chart. So you see I made a T. At the top, I always put the date, the temperature outside, and the weather. I'll often write something about if it's sunny or cloudy, and how I'm feeling that day. I chose to put a title on my comparison chart as well, just to remind me what I was doing with this exercise. The leaves that I chose were both small enough to fit on my page, so I actually traced them and then put the details onto the drawing, the tracing that I did. Your leaves might be too large to do that, and that is completely fine. You can certainly make a drawing of your leaf smaller than its actual size. I chose to do my I notice observations all around the leaf, drawing arrows to things I was speaking of specifically, making the comparison. So you see here, I wrote the emerald color can bend and break, whereas on the other leaf I wrote leaf is brownish red, dry and crinkly, some beige and yellow. So I'm trying to compare the two, looking at what's similar, what's different. Here's some of the questions I came up with. So for example, why is this leaf still green? The other one I wrote, when did this leaf fall? How far away is the tree it fell from? And then these reminds me of, the veins look like the veins on the back of my hand. This reminds me of the Canadian flag. I also wrote down observations about how it feels, how it looks, but remember, use all of your senses. So when you're outside making observations, you can be using your sense of hearing as well. Use your sense of smell. I smelled both of my leaves too, and they smelled different from each other. Your sense of touch, of course. Use all 5 senses to make your observations and record those. I'd like you and your classmates to share your information. Share what you discovered. Share your questions. Share your "this reminds me of" statements. Start to compare and contrast the different leaves that you found. How many different kinds did you and your class find? What does this tell you about the diversity, the variety of plants in and around your school community? You can learn so much from sharing each other's observations. Put your ideas together and come to some conclusions. Nature journaling is about making your observations, asking your questions, drawing comparisons and similarities, which will allow you to make inferences about things that you are seeing in the natural world. It can also be artistic as well. Language, math, art, science, social studies, all of these can be part of nature journaling. Here's a fun art activity. Some of you may have done these before. This is a leaf rubbing that I made of 3 different leaves that I found interesting outside, actually, in my garden. Some of you may have done this before. To do this, you put the leaf down on a flat surface. You put your paper over top. You need a crayon, and you'll use the flat side of the crayon. I just peeled the paper off of this, and then you just rub. And you see how I'm moving the crayon in the same direction up and down the page, so you get some details of the leaf. So this is another way to make your observations in your nature journal. Drawing, but then you can also use different materials like crayons, do a rubbing like this, and then make the observations from your rubbing as well. The possibilities are endless. Never forget, once you've done this, you're going to share your ideas, share your questions, share your thoughts and observations. That's all part of the fun of investigating and working together as a community.
I look so forward to getting to know you, everybody, hearing your questions and your stories about your adventures outdoors, and of course, heading out on our virtual field trips together. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.